Hey, Link here. Thanks for joining me for episode 122, where I speak with Mairi Nolan. In this episode, we talk about who she is, her views on designing for video games versus puzzle games, how she got into this line of work, some words of encouragement, games that made her want to work in the industry, favorite games, her life outside of gaming, as well as some lighting round questions. Before we get started, don't forget there are links in the episode description that you can follow to learn more about Marie as well as the podcast. Also, don't forget to like and share the episode, and without further ado, enjoy episode 122. Hi, and welcome to the Red Tunic Podcast, a podcast where I look to rediscover what makes gaming fun and enjoyable by having positive conversations with those related to the industry. My name is Link, and today I'm joined by Mairi Nolan, freelance puzzle designer. Hi, Mairi. How are you doing today?
Hey, Link, I'm good. How are you?
I am doing all right. It's a Tuesday here right now, and the heat in August is getting fun with its humidity, but being cool. I don't know how that translates for you in the UK. But it's
Yeah,
our
so
summers where I am are like get really humid and disgusting sometimes. Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off there.
no, no, not at all. You're good. Well, I was about to tell you how hot it is today, but I talk in centigrade, so I don't think that'll translate. If I'm like, oh yeah, it's 25 degrees, you'll be like, that's so cold though.
So I'm actually in Canada. We use the proper
Yes.
measurements. So yeah, no, it's 25 makes perfect sense for me.
So yeah, like it's warm, sunny, but it's been very humid today at 25. So I only left the house very briefly today. Um, I'm not very good with the hot weather, but yeah, I live in the cold part of the UK. I live up in Scotland. So in winter, gorgeous, snowy mountain tops. In summer, it's full of midges and like little bugs and stuff. It's no good.
So yeah, I can definitely relate to disgusting humidity and the displeasure for it. Yeah, it's not fun to walk outside and be feeling like you're drowning in nothing, right?
Exactly. Every breath of air you take in is just like, oh, it's like you're in a swimming pool.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm like I said, for us, we we had a moment of there being no humidity and then it came back. I'm hoping it's short-lived. Hopefully for you, I don't really know the temperature patterns or expectations for Europe in general, to be honest, because I know that you guys, your houses are typically built to hold the heat. Um, so it
Mm-hmm.
really screws with things when the heat comes in. So like, I don't know how it usually
Uh-huh.
works, but hopefully you guys get out of, the humid zone as well, because it's just garbage.
Fingers crossed. I feel it. Winter is like not winter, but spooky season is coming. I've got my fingers crossed right now. Give us a month and a half, and it's going to be pumpkins everywhere. It's going to be glorious.
I will look forward to that in spirit for you because it's a nice time here as well for that. So it's yeah, hopefully that is a cut to the humidity for you guys as well.
Thank you.
Now, now, Marie, I do want to ask this though. Before we get any further, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about yourself for anyone that's listening, kind of like the elevator pitch or like the 411 of who you are, what you do, like the things that you feel people should definitely know before we go any further.
Yeah, so my name is, as you said, Mairi. I'm based half the year in London in the UK and half of the year in Edinburgh in the UK. I am a freelance puzzle game designer who spans sort of video games, board games, physical escape rooms, immersive experiences, basically like any kind of game that has some sort of puzzle element. I do the puzzle part, so I'm usually hired on to like write riddles and sort of design layouts and levels and stuff like that. So here in the video game world, I guess I'm best known as the lead designer on a series by a little studio called 11 Puzzles. So we did Unsolved Case, we did Unboxing the Cryptic Killer, and a few other titles, and also an upcoming game called Wax Heads, which I'm pretty excited about as well. That's a record shop simulator. we're not doing that. I'm also the studio manager at a different studio called Drachnic and Friends. We make loads of different puzzle games, kind of soccer band, top-down style games, including A Monster's Expedition, A Good Snowman is Hard to Build, Cosmic Express, games like that. And yeah, and very recently, actually, I founded a company with a few friends called Studio Heft, and we are working on our first game together. I think we just, as friends, want to make games together in general, and we were like, okay, we need an actual legal organization to do this under. So yeah, we've got a few exciting games coming quite soon, which I'm super looking forward to, but they haven't been announced yet, so you just have to take my word. They're going to be great. They're going to be puzzly, and yeah, but yeah, that's me. A lot of words. You said do it succinctly. I did not. I did it very long, but that's who I am.
So thank you very much for giving more information about who you are. That's I'm not gonna lie, my introductions, I'm always at odds for trying to figure out like how to thread that needle. And then at some point I was like,
Hmm.
I can just ask people to say more about themselves. That way I don't have to worry about it. I can say a nice little like handful of words and then they can say all the nice appropriate things that otherwise would have fallen through the crack, you know?
Exactly. And I think you're right. You said puzzle designer, and to be honest, that is the title. That's the big umbrella term. Everything else sits underneath. And that's enough. People get that, I think. I hope.
And if they didn't, they definitely know now, right? I think, and that's also the easy way to do it. They can listen an extra handful of minutes and then get a much better idea.
Exactly.
Now, I am curious about this just because I don't think I've spoken to many people. You might be the first. There's been a handful of people, so I can't remember
Hmm.
exactly. But when it comes to doing approaches for video games, board games, escape rooms, etc., what have you, how is there like so I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. I'll just put it this way. It's easy and blunt. Is there like a very different approach you have to take for them, or is there similarities and there's, the differences are smaller than they are bigger or what have you? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And the answer is kind of yes and also kind of no. So at the end of the day, I think the process you want your players to go through when solving a puzzle you've designed is the same. There are a lot of sort of rules around designing a good puzzle, and the medium doesn't really matter. It's still the same kind of steps of tutorialization and kind of getting them to understand the rules and then applying the rules and then adding a complexity. So, in that way, it's a little bit of a formula you can kind of apply. It's just the medium changes. But it kind of gets more interesting when you think like, so I started more in the physical media side of escape rooms and board games, but in video games, things like that were rules when you do board games and escape rooms, like the laws of gravity, the laws of physics. Oh, that doesn't apply anymore in a video game. So actually, you can kind of like different mediums give different challenges, but different advantages as well, and kind of like weird and wonderful things you can do to create the best puzzle. So yeah, the answer is both simultaneously yes and no. Um, I think video games is probably my favorite though, for that exact reason, which is exactly that. I no longer have to obey gravity and time and anything I want. You can make puzzles that are so out there, they're just like incredible to solve. So yeah, that's probably the main difference.
So thank you for speaking to that. And I understand completely what you mean. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It's one of those things. The moment you said, I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense. As it usually is when you ask such a question, right? Um, but no, that's interesting and a good point. That like largely speaking, the logic that you're going to apply, as long as in video games and across everything, it's going to be following some form of expected real world physics. I'm putting that in air quotes, right? Um, that like there's some form of obeying those rules, so like everything's going to kind of have that same kind of logic. And then where the difference is, like you said, in video games, you can make a puzzle where you have to be on the ceiling, right? Um,
Exactly.
or go back in time or forward in time or what have you, right? So like thank you for speaking to that. I'm
Yeah.
also wondering in that same
Yeah.
vein, um, what do you enjoy? Well, you already mentioned the video games, but I'm um like is there one that you enjoy working with more in terms of strictly logic puzzles, not like anything that would like in a game. As you mentioned, it's more enjoyable because you can like tweak the physics of you know the gravity or what have you. But
Yeah.
throwing that out the door, is there do you have a preference for which one you're going to be making normal puzzles for?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. And I would say my answer is probably something that fits under the umbrella term of immersive experiences. And by that, I mean things that people go and physically play in a physical location. So, on the one hand, yeah, that is escape rooms, but it's also when you kind of go and see a theater performance and maybe the theater isn't up on a play, it's happening all around you. I think that's a really interesting medium to design puzzles for because people are going to physically be in the space and you can play with things like sound and expectation and human interaction in like a really different, weird way. So one of the things I didn't say in my last question is like as well as sort of advantages and disadvantages, there's also a lot of player expectations. So when you're playing a video game, you expect to press this button to jump. You expect to have an inventory. You expect to have a tutorial with like pop-ups on screen. And sure, there are loads of things that break that, but I think with immersive, there are less expectations. So if I said to you tomorrow, I was like, hey, I'm going to take you to an immersive experience. It's set in like a 1920s speakeasy and we have to solve a murder. Like maybe you'd sort of be able to picture the scene, but in terms of what you can and can't do, you probably wouldn't have that expectation. That's for the people in the moment to kind of set that, well, you can do this, you can't do this, and being playful around that. And I didn't design this, but I played one recently and it was called Barry's Birthday Party. And it was a theatre performance set at a birthday party in that your only thing as a customer was you had to say how you knew Barry. So everyone had to have a backstory. And you didn't know who was an actor and who wasn't, and who was in on it and who wasn't. And you just had to like walk between people in this experience and like the play would kind of take place around you. Like people would have altercations and someone would be like, oh, come help me decorate this cake. And you wouldn't really know who was in on it and who wasn't, but you still got the story at the end. And that's maybe a bad example because there's no puzzles in that experience. But there are plenty of experiences like that that are very puzzle based and you're kind of logically solving something. You're like presented with evidence, you're presented with clues, and you have to kind of interrogate people or really explore the case. And yeah, those are really fun to design. Just because people are very deer in headlights, like bewildered when they walk into these spaces, and you get to teach them the rules from the ground up as well. So yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And you speaking about it, it reminded me of something that I honestly haven't thought on or participated in really
Yeah.
since elementary school, some 25 plus years ago now. Um, I'm not, every time I say something like that, I'm not gonna, I feel incredibly old. But
Someone at
um,
home is calculating now. They're like adding the years.
Um, but the thing that it reminded me of was in elementary school, we played this game where one person or two people or what have you were assassins, and everyone
Hmm.
was doing handshakes, and you would tickle someone's hand. They would have to like count to 10, do everything they were normally doing, but count to 10 and then die. And then there
Yeah.
was the spy who was trying to find them or what have you. And it was kind of like that Barry's birthday party or
Yeah.
Barty's birthday party or what have you. Sorry for the name mix up, but was like everyone was doing something. There was a handful of people that were doing, a handful of people that weren't doing, and everyone was participating all the same, and no one really knew who or what was going on. Until except the few key actors. So it like remind me of that, and that seems like a really interesting thing to experience, just because the wildness of it, of knowing that like the people that are getting into an altercation, you can probably safely presume they're not actually getting into a fight, because that would be a
Yeah.
wild thing to happen at one of these. But
Exactly.
um but like it's who knows if the person that's doing the cake, if the actual actor wasn't like, hey, help me do this cake, and then they walked off, and then that person just happened to bring you into it too, right? um so
Exactly.
like
And yeah. Hearing you talk about Assassins reminds me a lot. I don't know if you ever played this later than elementary school, but at my university, we did like a term-long game of Assassins. Have you heard of these? Where it's like at the start of the term, you're given a name and you have to like go and, I don't know, spray them with water or something, or like mark them, and then you'd like taken them out. And this whole game was designed to last months. So yeah, your thing just reminded me of that thing as well.
So, unfortunately, no, I did not go to a fun enough college or what have you that did anything like that. The closest thing that
Oh.
I did something like that out of school was at a scouts meetup where me and some friends went around with a bingo dabber pretending to murder people, and that's how we knew who we murdered. Um,
That sounds great, though. You designed your own game within that. I love that.
in a sense, we designed our own game in that we were murder hobos and no one else was participating willingly.
That sounds fun for you guys.
It was absolutely fantastic for us until people got really upset that we kept, stabbing them with bingo dappers. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Now, Marie, I am curious, uh, how and like by all means, because the mediums that you work across, so like this has an even wider kind of answer for you. So feel free to answer this or tackle this however you'd see fit. But like, how did you get into doing puzzles, making being a puzzle designer? And as I said, feel free to take that as like for board games, for video games, for immersive experiences, what have you, what have you. Like you can dealer's choice on how you tackle it.
Yeah, so that's another really good question because whenever I introduce myself as a puzzle designer to other people in the industry, I can kind of see the cogs in their brain going like, puzzle designer isn't like a job you encounter, and I very rarely encounter other puzzle designers. So it's not one that I think as a kid you can be like, yeah, I'm gonna do that when I'm older. Like maybe you, if you know about the industry, you'll say I want to do level design or narrative writing or whatever it is, but pure puzzles, not exactly. So I kind of just fell into it. Like I didn't necessarily have this in mind and what to do. And that's not to say I didn't want to be a game designer, but I didn't necessarily have a specialization in mind. I studied a very weird set of things. So I studied architecture, and then I ended up, I didn't do the full thing. It's 7 years over here, and I did not spend 7 years doing that, but I did the first part. And then I ended up transferring and did a second degree, which was so unrelated. It was law. Don't even ask me why I did law. I never used it one single day in my life. But then I went into a kind of marketing role for this escape room company. And that was a really delightfully creative job because when you're marketing for an escape room, you're not like, maybe we had a meeting and it was like, we want to sell gift cards, but we don't just want to sell a gift card and you get a piece of paper and that's it. It's like, well, let's hide this in a puzzle. So when people buy this, they have to like solve the puzzle to see what their gift card is, kind of thing. And so it was a very design heavy, like escape roomy job. And I kind of like, this is a weird thing to say, but I got very lucky during the lockdown because um, the company I worked for at the time obviously wasn't like, we weren't going to be actively making any more escape rooms. But we still needed to market. So that meant we could be so much more creative with our marketing. And I remembered sort of pitching play at home escape rooms, and they were sort of tabletop games and digital games, and sort of being given this budget to like learn programming and kind of integrate that. And then that one thing led to another. And then eventually, well, a few years after that, I ended up going freelance. But by this point, I had a portfolio of stuff I'd done personally, whether sort of game jams or little murder mysteries with friends, and now professionally as well, as like an official escape room company. Here's all the like play at home games we did. Here's all the physical escape rooms we did as well. And yeah, as a lot of people who are in the video games industry now and people I mentor as well, I always say, like, just make the games you want to make for wherever you want to make them. And that then becomes your portfolio. And for me, that kind of like stuck a lot because I enjoyed puzzle games. So I made puzzle games and I wanted to make puzzle games. And then my portfolio is just puzzle games. So now the only jobs I get are puzzle games, which is a great problem to have because that's the games I want to make. So it's kind of like accidental specialization. And yeah, it's maybe not even the most like glamorous story. And a lot of people ask me, they're like, "How do I get into this? I want to do this." And I'm like, I don't know, just kind of like make games and put yourself in the situation and be in the right room at the right time and yeah, make the games you want to see in the world, right? And that's how I got into it. So yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And I have one question before I ask another. I'm
hmm
so you saying all this made me think of this one, and I've never thought of this, but um, and mind the way I ask this because I don't know the right
Yeah.
words for this. However, when it comes to escape rooms, are they typically going to someone like yourself to do the design, or like the actual like this is how it'll function? Like they go, hey, our room's going to be like 12 by 12, blah 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 blah, and they're like buying a uh, I'm going to say like a template, a layout, or what have you, based on
hmm
their room or based on their theme. Is like that how that works?
It can happen like that, but not typically with me. So there are a lot of companies out there that do escape room design, where they have like a scenario and a series of puzzles and recommended decor, and you sort of buy that package, and that's like your escape room, and you can apply it to your physical space. That's not exactly what I do. Usually, I come in whereby a company has a theme in mind and they have a story in mind, and they want to build the gameplay flow. So, like, where are the players going to go? What are they going to do? And I guess this is where the background in architecture comes in, because I can take that model and I can draw all over the top, and I can sort of add a mezzanine layer, and I can add the crawl spaces, and I can kind of like build in sort of where the wiring's going to go and stuff like that, which is again a problem we do not have in video games. But yeah, I would usually be designing more of the overall gameplay and the gates and where the players are solving things together, whether they're splitting up and kind of coming back together at the end. And yeah, I don't know if you've played a lot of escape rooms, and maybe I'm like starting to say terminology that won't make a lot of sense, like linearity and non-linearity and like the meta puzzles and stuff. But um, yeah, I'm usually more in charge of the puzzle design rather than making a game that anyone can put in their room. So it's a little bit more personalized one-to-one for companies.
So thank you for sharing that. And I, I'm glad you understood what I was trying to ask, just because, it didn't occur to me that, it's an escape room isn't just like someone getting a room and like going, yeah, we're going to do this, right? Because obviously, there is a lot of work that would go into it, right? Like there is a lot of things that you would have to figure out, you'd have to manage, and and whatnot. So, like, thank you for speaking to that, just because that's really interesting. The different dynamics and the different approaches that a company or a person can take when doing the designs and whatnot.
Yeah, no
And
worries.
me personally, the only experience I have is through video games. So I've never actually been to a physical one. So the magic or the physical like constraints are, I understand what you're saying. I'm aware of them, but I've never had to actually stare any of them in the face. So
Ooh, I think you'd like them. I don't know, it's a different media of game. If you like video games and board games and stuff, you've got to try one. I think you'll enjoy it.
it's on the list of things to do at some point. It's in there with all the other things, not to say that too glibly, but it's on the list of things to do one day, and I'm sure I'll get to it one day. I'm looking forward to it whenever that time may be, though.
Nice.
Now, you did kind of touch on this. However, I'm going to ask it more explicitly, just in case there was more to it. And what you did speak to it was just sort of a coincidence or what have you. But I'm wondering if you have any like words of encouragement to others that might want to get into um, any of the general direction of things that you do. Um, don't mind me trying to put that all under an umbrella. It's just you do a whole bunch of different things, and again, it's dealer's choice on which direction you take to answer this. But I'm wondering if you have any like words of encouragement for others, and that others might be like a younger version of you that didn't know what they wanted to do, or just someone who does know that this is the direction they want to go, but they don't know how to get started. You know?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's tricky. When I was sort of growing up, there was no sort of course I could have or would have done to get me into this. So it very much is like I don't know, like as a lot of people in the games industry, I speak to so many people, it's just like getting started with things like game jams or like making a jam for your friends. This game jam that always happens around Christmas, and I can't remember its name, but it's something like Make a Gift Jam, and I love taking part in that because I think that is the true spirit of how I got started and the advice I would give someone else. And it's like either design for yourself or design for someone else. And like be like, I'm going to design a friend for my mom, my brother, my cousin, my friend, whatever that is, and be like, what game would they like playing? And then you can imagine their like reactions and how they would interpret like what you're doing. And it also gives you like a bit of a deadline as well. Like if I'm going to make a game for my friend at Christmas and give it to them for Christmas, that's my artificial deadline as well. And that sounds like a very like silly piece of advice, but honestly, just forcing yourself to sit down and make a game for someone with a deadline, that is not only your experience, but that becomes your portfolio. That becomes your litmus test of if you even want to do this. And that becomes your litmus test of what kind of game do you want to make? And did you even have fun doing it as well? Because those are all important questions to ask yourself when deciding, yeah, like what you want to do in life, I guess, as well. So, yeah, make the games you want to make. Find a way to really put you in the zone of making that kind of game. And yeah, it's I never know if this is good advice, but it has served people I've mentored before in the past. And it's very silly of me to just be like, just make the game. But I think, yeah, make the game with purpose, with intention, and yeah, you never know where it'll end you. Um, my plus one piece of advice to that, and this is something specifically for puzzle design, is to specialize as much as you can and as early as you can once you have a sense of what kind of games you want to make, because there are, especially in this current economy, there are so many amazing like level designers, let's say, out there, and the job market is incredibly difficult and studios are just not hiring as much as they used to be. But the more you specialize, whether that is a certain platform you do, a certain medium you do, a certain genre, and even subgenres within that, like I can say, oh yeah, I do puzzle games, but if someone came to me tomorrow and asked me to design a soccer band game, which is a certain subgenre, I probably couldn't. I'd have to recommend someone else. And even within puzzle designers, like I know who are the soccer band designers out there. And yeah, just kind of like making the games you want to make is part of specializing, but that's definitely something that has served me quite well in my career, especially earlier. Like I wasn't scattergun, I was designing a certain type of game. And so fast forward to when people sort of reaching out as potential clients, they're like, we want to make a game like this. And I make games like this. So just makes it a lot easier when you kind of get further and further into your career, or not even further and further at any stage in your career. It just makes it easier if you really know what you want to do and you have evidence you can do it. Yeah, that was probably way too much of an answer for that question, but that's my advice.
So thank you for speaking to that. And I I'm not gonna lie, I always like when people's like, the paraphrasing is just do it. I always think of that stupid Shia LaBeouf video or the gifts or what
Yes.
have you. But I always like when people are like, just do it. Because it's such an
Yeah.
easy answer. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's such a like a, well, yeah, just do it. Like it makes perfect sense. So thank you for
Mm,
sharing that. I also like the idea of specializing or maybe finding like your niche and going in that direction. Um,
yeah.
in your case, it's I'm happy to hear that. It sounds like it's paid off. That you found the direction that you want to take, and you are able to um, you're able to keep like utilizing those skills that people come to you, and you get better at doing those things,
Yeah.
and like you're able to do that, especially like you touched on in today's industry, which I don't think you know uh, I don't think anyone that's even remotely just barely paying attention would be unaware of just how unfun it is right now. I think that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
the nice way to put it.
Very much so.
But no, again, thank you for speaking to that. I think that's wonderful advice and words of encouragement. So thank you. Now,
Mm,
I am curious about this, and this is mainly because um, I'm not going to lie. I don't mean this in a negative way, but you're probably the first person I spoke to with a focus on puzzles. Um, and my immediate thought process for like what kind of games that would be like old point and click or point and click games, not action adventure. I don't know what I was about to say there, but that is my preconceived notion, and I shouldn't make it's going out the window right now. But I am curious, um, like what kind of games made you want to get into this, right? Like, and I only say like my preconceived notion would be trying to be like, well, obviously, if you like these, you're going to try and make those games, right? Which is silly because that's not always the case. But anyway, to the actual question at hand, what what was there a game or a series of games or what have you that made you find yourself leaning in this direction? Um, and if so, like what games would those have been?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I am currently sitting at my desk and I'm looking at my shelf and I can see Monkey Island on my shelf, one of the original box sets of the original games. And yeah, honestly, those early point and click adventures, I am the exact age demographic that I totally grew up with them all and I just absolutely love them. Having said that, well, this is going to be controversial. I don't know how well they stand up to the kind of similar genre games we get today. I think they kind of not suffer, but they are of their time. But me being a child growing up in the 90s, just loved them, devoured every single one of them. So I think that was the thing that probably got me into making games in general. But as I said, I didn't really go into that at university. I didn't think I was going to be a game designer until quite late into my, well, academic career, at least. And I think maybe a more interesting answer would be games like Return of the Obra Dinn or Case of the Golden Idol. And I say those because, like, even though I'm very aware they all came out sort of after I'd already started to become a game designer, but maybe I was still working in escape rooms or board games at that point. But I think games like Golden Idol and Obra Dinn are just so simple. Like, you look at them and you're like, wow, I don't need to learn like complicated Unreal Engine. I don't need to learn to illustrate amazingly. Like, these developers have created amazing puzzles, amazing narratives with such limited kind of palette. So for anyone who doesn't know at home, the Golden Idol, there's two games now, but I'm thinking of the first one, Case of the Golden Idol. And all it is you get like a vignette, you get like a scene, and there's like weird things happening in the scene. There's like someone's on fire, and like someone's like dropped something, and like just like a weird snapshot of a scene. And you can click into them and you can sort of tap words and they kind of go into your glossary. And then to continue the level, there's like a fill in the blank sentence. And it's like blank did blank and that caused blank to blank. And you just look at the scene and you have to solve that. And like as a junior game designer, as a young game designer, I could have done that on paper. And it showed that you didn't need to like design something incredibly complicated to tell really interesting stories, to like set up really interesting like puzzles as well. And the same thing with Obra Dinn, Return of the Obra Dinn, Lucas Pope. That's similar, but that one's a little bit more complex. You walk around an old, I want to call it a galleon, but I don't know my ship terminology. A ye olde ship. You walk around a ye olde ship, and everyone on the ship has like died in a terrible and fantastical way. And you kind of reach these points of interest and you can kind of look into the past and see a snapshot of like what happened. And it gets a little bit silly. There's like a kraken at some point. There's like giant spiders at another point. Like it's not like to be taken that seriously, but there is such a good puzzle solving mechanic that underlies it. And again, like I look at a game like that and the whole thing is like monochrome. It's just two colors. Like the whole thing is like rendered from like low poly like scenes. And I think for me, seeing games like that didn't go all out with the like incredible graphics and like 500 hours of gameplay, that made me think like, oh, anyone can design games. I don't have to be a AAA studio. I can just design something that's a really interesting story and it's like short and interesting and as a good solve. So yeah, my answer would be, while I grew up with things like Monkey Island, games like Golden Idol and Obra Dinn, I think, have had more impact on me when I needed them in my career, if that makes sense.
Yes, I understand what you're meaning because the because yes, like in your case, it was something that came on later in life, right? Um,
Yeah,
so like, well, those games would have been foundations for things you enjoy and like whatnot. Um, it's like you said, you went to school and it was a Bob Ross, a kind of like a happy accident that you found yourself in the
yeah,
place that you are, right? So it's a lot
yeah,
harder in those situations. Like, oh yeah, this game is the reason, what have you, what have you, what have you. But
yeah.
thank you for sharing that. And I'm not gonna lie, and I think I bring this up every time I speak with people that mention point and click games. At least older ones, well, both. Um, but the I think from what I've gathered from everyone I've spoken to, Lucas Art games have aged far better than the Sierra point and clicks in that they
Very
were
true.
less nonsense in that it's like, hey, this thing you got at the beginning of the game, you better keep it till the end, otherwise you've wasted your entire
Hmm.
playthrough, right? Um,
Yep.
so like I think the consensus is at least LucasArts ones have aged better because of that. So, it's probably okay to say they're fine now. I'd be hard pressed to recommend a Sierra game to someone without a guide in today's world, though.
I completely agree.
Um, Now, with that in mind, I am curious about this one, just because it's an easy follow up. It's an easy ask. Um, and I'm gonna make this presumption.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna sidestep Monkey Island with this as well. But do you have a favorite game that isn't Monkey Island? And if so, what might that game be? And by the way, if Monkey Island isn't, the absolute favorite, that's not me making a shot at it. That's just me making the assumption because you own one of the original box sets and whatnot. I felt that was a safe assumption to go with.
I do. It is a very safe assumption. And also, would you believe I found this box set in a charity shop and they did not know what they had? It's like a first edition. Anyway, it's the best purchase I ever made in my life. Um, but no, actually, okay. So I have been incredibly into a game since it launched. I want to say early this year. I think it was early this year. It's called Blueprints by Dogu Bomb, I believe is the name of the developer. And I have to say, without a doubt, that is probably my new favorite game. Sure, ask me in a year, and a new game might have come out that trumps it. But I just think Blueprints is so clever. It's again for anyone who doesn't know, Blueprints is a roguelike. Well, are we calling it? Okay, it's a game that defies genre. It's a puzzle game, but the idea is you inherit this big mansion, and if you get to the mysterious room at the center of the mansion, you get to claim it for your own. But every single day, the rooms reset. So if you explore the mansion once and then come back the next day, it's completely changed. And the medium by which you explore the mansion is at every door, you draw three cards and you choose which three cards. And one of them's like the bathroom, one's like the observatory, one's like something else. And so, depending on how you're playing each day, you've really got to choose carefully and you've got to like count your steps carefully. And inside loads of different rooms, there are different puzzles. And you've got to sort of, like, I use it in air quotes, lay the rooms out, like lay the tiles out very carefully to like create the best outcome for yourself. And yeah, I honestly think I've sunk about 100 hours into this game, which is unusual for me. I don't usually go for the big games, but Blueprints has done something so different, so unique, and I think it is maybe one of the best puzzle games of. Am I going to say this decade? Yeah, we're 2025. I'm going to say of this decade, I'm going to call it now. Blueprints is the puzzle game. So that's probably my favorite game. And yeah, it's a masterpiece.
So thank you for sharing that. And I'm not gonna lie. When you were saying that, I feel like an idiot because I just realized that it's a play on blueprints,
Oh,
like
yes.
blueprints for like layouts. I
Yep.
I'm not a clever person. I don't know why it literally just took this moment that I went, oh hey, it's a It's a pun. Okay. Um,
It's my accent. I probably said it too quickly. But yes,
no,
it's
no. You
blueprints, but it's
you
blueprints.
you said it, and then the light bulb finally went off, or went on, I should say. So yes, your accent is the thing that made me suddenly realize what the intention with the name was. So thank you, but I'm also incredibly disappointed with myself that it didn't occur to me that 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 was what they were doing. I feel like an idiot. Anyway, um, but no, thank you for sharing that. I'm not gonna lie, I've played a bit of the game, and I'm always so confused about what I'm supposed to be doing. Um,
hmm
and like part of it's that issue where I know I have everything I need, and I'm just standing in the room going, I don't know what I need to do. So, like,
Mm.
I'll Google it because I'm like, I don't care, I'll cheat. Oh, and it's one of those things where it's like, hey, stupid, did you try taking the magnifying glass to the picture? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
no. And then suddenly the puzzle is solved. It's like, because yeah, that's what I had to do the whole time. But
But
I'm
also, what if
always
you don't have the magnifying glass and then you have to like start the day all over again and then you don't draw the room? So it's actually a bit of a nightmare of a game.
in those cases, yes. Usually, I'm not gonna lie, whenever I'm looking stuff up, it's because I know I have like, I've been able to deduce that I have all of the puzzle pieces, I just don't know how to put them together, and I stand there for 15 minutes and go, "Oh, no," like, I'm Googling it, right? And that's, a few of the rooms, that was the case with the magnifying glass, where I'm like, "Oh, yeah, there's a picture over there. How am I too stupid to take the magnifying glass I've been looking at every other picture in every other room with," right? It's usually those kind of things where I'm like, "Screw it, I'm gonna cheat," and it's like, "Yeah, I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have had to Google, use the magnifying glass on the one thing you can use it on, the big picture with little writing that you can see there's little" anyway. What
Don't
I'm
worry,
saying
I
is
do that too.
but no, what I'm saying is yeah, that is I think it's also a fantastic game. I'm just perpetually lost and confused about what is happening in that game. And then I see people talk about how there's pseudo new game plus or
Oh
what
yeah.
have you, what have you, what have yous. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, this room, but puzzle three of this room. It's like there's three puzzles in this room. Like I'm struggling on the one that lets me do one thing. Like, what are you people doing?
I feel the same way. Like I'll think I've completed the game and then I'll talk to a friend about it and they'll be like, just casually, they'll be like, "Oh, and did you find this room yet?" And I'm like, "Wait, what? This room?" And then when I eventually go back and find that room, it unlocks an entire series of 100 or more puzzles in a whole different area of the house. And I'm like, okay, so I've missed 50% of the game. Understood.
Yeah, in my case, it's the feeling of I've missed 80% of the game because I don't know what people are doing. They just casually drop a thing like, "Oh yeah, this room." Is like, "That's a room?" Like, what? Like, what's happening here? Um, but no, thank you for speaking to that. And I'm hoping. Well, it sounds like you are in a better position than me to enjoy the game more, just because you clearly have like a mindset for it that lends itself to actually solving puzzles better than me for as opposed to me kind of being like the monkey with a wrench just hitting the rock in hopes that one day it turns into a circle for a wheel, right? um but no, I thank you for speaking to the game base, and also thank you for making me realize I'm a moron that the name is a pun on blueprints. um
Not at all.
oh man, I sorry. It's one of those things where it's like I'm just thinking I'm like I'm an idiot. Anyway, sorry. Um now, Marie, I do want to ask this one.
Uh-huh.
Um because I don't know where this one will go cuz um and I don't mean this in a negative way, right? Like I'm sure that there are game designers where going and having fun with escape rooms and stuff is their relaxation time, or is their like hobby
hmm
outside of gaming. So like I'm really don't know how this one's going to go, but outside of gaming, outside of work, let's say work instead of gaming
Yeah.
here. What is it that you do to relax? What do you enjoy doing? And by all means, if the answer is, well, it's mostly just things related to work, that's still a valid answer. I don't want to discredit that, but I like to ask all the same.
I mean, that kind of is my answer, but that does make me sound like a massive workaholic. So if I tell you I like to play escape rooms, but that's also kind of my job, yeah, it's not the best. But hey, I did recently hit my 450th escape room ever played. So I mean, I've got to find that relaxing at some point to spend at least 450 hours of my life doing that. But yeah, let's give you a serious answer though. I am, well, you said relax, and I was gonna say I like to read and I like to watch films, but as a game designer, I somehow have to gamify it. And so my target is 100 books this year, and I'm trying to hit off a number of different like countries from around the world, like reading different games from those countries, and they've got a little map I'm filling out. And with the films, I'm trying to watch 250 films, and that's a little bit less gamified, but I'm trying to hit a lot of like recommendations from people. And so when I say it out loud like that, I'm like, aha, that doesn't sound that relaxing. So I guess what do I actually do to relax? I stare into space. I no, I like going for walks. There's a couple of like great meetups here in my city, and we are game dev people usually, but we do like to go for big hikes, and we kind of meet up and do other things, like go to the cinema and stuff. And yeah, I don't know if it's a little bit cliche to say hanging out with friends slash hanging out with people in the industry who are now also friends, but yeah, if I'm not doing escape rooms, there's a lot of staring into space until someone texts me and says, "Come on, we're going for a hike." That's what I do to relax.
So thank you for speaking to that, and I'm curious, because like that's a lot of books. Movies, I don't know if that's a lot of movies. I don't mean that in a negative way, because that's
Yeah.
a movie is something you can knock out in an evening kind of thing, right? Like,
Hmm.
so like I don't mean to discredit or speak ill to that one. I'm just the books to me
Yeah.
is a far scarier number for as someone especially that doesn't read. But listens to
Yeah.
audiobooks and knows that some books are like 60 hours, and that's a lot of time.
Hmm.
Um, so like I'm
Absolutely.
curious, what are you reading? Let's go with that one.
What am I reading? Right now, I'm reading a book called Strange Houses, which is a murder mystery. It's only about 300 pages long, and I say that like with big inverted commas of like, that's a small book. But I read a little bit of everything, and I do read audiobooks as well. And again, in inverted commas, because a lot of people are like, oh, if you've listened to it, it's not technically, you didn't read the book. But I count it. I consumed the book. I read a bit of everything, honestly. I think I'm at 55 books read now. And at the time of recording this, it is late August. So I'm technically behind schedule, but we're coming up for spookier months. We're coming up for winter. I think I'll have a few cozy weeks just getting through a couple of books. And yeah, if I get to the end of the year and I'm falling behind, I can always get a few like graphic novels, right? Let's not be purist about it. They count.
So yes, that is, I'm not going to, far be it from me to be the person that's going to be try and be pedantic over listening to an audiobook doesn't count. I I did there's no cameras, so you wouldn't have seen this, but I did a action in response to when you said, I know there's purists. I think we're in the same mindset. I just did a far more rude hand gesture
Yeah.
in response to that for those people. Um, but no,
Hmm.
I completely understand what you're saying, and I'm not gonna lie. When I was in high school, we there was always this like, hey, if you do book reports, it'll give you 2%, up to
Yeah.
10%, 2% per book, blah blah blah, thing.
Yeah.
I went out of my way and just read children's books, like Chronicles of Narnia, because they
Yeah.
were easy children's books that you could knock off and write like a one-page write-up that did the job. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not gonna look down on someone trying to hit their self-made quota and reading like Batman graphic novels or what have you, right? Because reading is reading. It's silly to
Exactly.
um try and close the gates on people that are trying to do a thing that might better themselves, right?
Exactly. And if we get to the end of December, you can believe I will be devouring those Batman novels, those Batman graphic novels to try and get to my target. And I'm looking forward to it as well. They're great.
Yes, I don't know if you are aware. the Absolute series that DC has just sort of that launched. I'd
Ooh,
say the
I'm
beginning
not.
of the year. It
Oh, I should go
is
check it out.
You should, because it's a really interesting take from what I haven't read it yet. My partner was picking up Absolute Wonder Woman. I recently picked up the trade for Absolute Batman. I just haven't had a chance to read it yet. But it's like uh, a different universe as they do, but it's kind of like a weird, grittier version. Where like in this case, Batman, he isn't like some rich guy or what have you. He's just um, a I'll use this. He's like a brick outhouse, effectively. That's just going
Mm-hmm.
around. He's like a civil engineer, and he's just going around stopping crime. And his insignia on his chest, he pulls it off, and it's actually a like a war axe. So it's
That sounds
far
great.
it's far grittier. So if you enjoy uh Batman or like DC comics where they have a little bit of grit to them, crunchiness or what have
Yeah.
you, you'll probably enjoy these ones just because um they're just geared to be a little older audience, a little grittier, a little less um the norm, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'll definitely check that out. Thanks for the recommendation.
Always, always happy to share a recommendation. Sorry, in my head, my brain is screaming to recommend probably one of the absolutely most nonsense movies to ever recommend to people. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna recommend it to you. I'm gonna censor it though, not because it's a bad word, but because it's it's not it's a movie. Um,
Okay.
Now, actually, I'll ask this first. When you are looking for movies, what kind of movies are you watching? What kind of ones are you like reaching out for? I should open with that, get a pulse check before I recommend something absolutely nonsense.
Honestly, everything. I love to ask people what their favorite film ever is, and all my friends have such different tastes that I just get a load of like really unusual things. And honestly, I watch them all. By the end of the year, I want to watch everyone's recommendations. So I'd say go for it, unless it's like the most gory horror you've ever seen in your life. Unless it's that, I'm good for it.
So, yeah, I'm definitely censoring this. It's not gory, it's not horror. It is it's definitely an adult movie, and I'm not gonna lie. I watched this movie. My mother rented it for reasons I don't understand and let me sit in the room
Yeah.
to watch it. Um,
Oh no.
however, however, Um, if you ever want to pull out a movie, you want to see a really screwed up movie, and you want to pull out a movie to screw with other people, deal some psychic damage, look into the movie if you haven't seen it, and if you
Happiness.
have seen it,
Okay.
you understand why it's a psychic damage movie.
Never seen it. This is interesting. I'm going to put it on my watch list now and I'll report back.
I am sorry. I'm sorry. It's a black comedy film. I can say that much, but I'm sorry. Um,
Looks cool. No, I'm gonna suspend my judgment and I'm gonna go away and watch it.
prepare yourself. Go in blind, but also prepare yourself. It's a trip.
Understood.
I will, however, though, say watch it from the view of an adult. Don't try and think of it like, oh yeah, let's put myself in Link's position as like an 8-year-old sitting in the
Oh
other room or
no.
what have you. Um, you'll
Oh,
understand.
poor you.
Like I said, I'm gonna censor the name because I don't I don't like recommending the movie to people because it's just so nonsense. And for anyone that's listening, it's not like one of those weird like art house like Eraserhead or whatever those kind of movies. I'm very clear on that. It's not anything like that. Um, I think it's Eraserhead is one of those weird ones. I don't know. I don't watch a
Yeah.
lot of weird movies. Anyway, I will ask you this though, because I
Yes.
just made a absolutely nonsense recommendation. Do you have recommendations for someone that's aiming to watch 250? I imagine this is not just like the first year you've done this, or at least maybe 250
Mm-hmm.
might be, but like the having a bunch. I'm wondering if you have like a recommendation for a really good movie that you enjoyed that you don't think gets a lot of like a lot of people might not have heard of.
Ooh, see, I was gonna start recommending the obvious ones until you said that people might not have heard of it. And then just as you said those words, a title popped into my head. And I think I watched it last year, and I think it ended up being one of my films of the year of last year. So it's called Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes. And it is a very short, quirky sci-fi. I say very short, it's about an hour and 20 minutes. Quirky sci-fi film about, well, first of all, not about. I think it was filmed during the lockdown on a budget of about $2,000 by this group of Japanese. I want to call them students, but they're probably not students. They're probably full adults. And it's basically the premise is a cafe owner discovers that one of the screens in his cafe can see 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes into the future. And so he sort of moves the screen around and sort of like gets into all kinds of quirky shenanigans about like I'm trying not to spoil it because it's just so weird and it just doesn't go where you think it's going to go. But just picture a single environment, low budget, quirky sci-fi film that I just think is an absolute masterpiece because of the story they told and what they did with like basically nothing. And it's called Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes. And Googling it in the background now, I think it is available in a few different places, various streaming services. So it's fairly easy-ish to find now, but it has not got a lot of love. So definitely go away and watch that, especially if you like sci-fi. Although it's not hard space or anything. It's very small, very silly.
So thank you for that recommendation. I wrote that down. I'm gonna make a attempt or an effort to seek it out, find out where I can if it's available for me to watch, right? So thank you for that
Yeah.
recommendation. It sounds interesting, just the quirkiness of I am assuming holding a TV around to see the
Yeah.
future, quote
Literally.
unquote future.
Literally.
I
That's it.
it's 2 minutes. I don't know if that's the real future, but Um, now I'm also going to throw this one out there for you because the last one was kind of like a scary recommendation. I say scary because it's scary.
Yeah.
Um, I am going to make this recommendation though for you. If you like um, kind of obscure or like quirky titles or things like that, there is a anime movie. It's getting its first English proper release with
Yeah.
subtitles this year, I think. That you,
Hmm.
if you're looking for like really weird in air quotes things, Angel's Egg is what it's called.
Angel's Egg. Okay.
If you're unaware of what it is,
Hmm.
if you like the art style or directive style of the person that did Ghost in the Shell 1 and 2, he's done a
Love
few
that.
other things. This was, I believe, his first film. It has all of like 12 words spoken in its entire like 90-minute what have you. But it was also the key art director, what have you, was one of the people from Final Fantasy. So
Oh wow.
you
That's
have this like
amazing.
really weird movie that a whole lot of imagery. You can look into it. You can take what you wish from it, but it's also all really beautiful because it's like the art style of like the early Final Fantasies. Um, I would that
Yeah.
is a recommendation that I would make on a very like on a more serious level than the previous one. 'Cause that one's just shock and awe at the end of the day.
Uncensored.
Um,
That can go to everyone on the podcast.
yes, exactly. Angel's Egg should be checked out. It's like I said, there's going to be an English subtitle release this year for all of its like 12 spoken words.
Amazing. So wonder it took them so long to do that.
It, I'm not gonna lie, it came out in like 83, 84. It's it's one of those titles that if anyone actually found a way to watch it up until the mid 2000s, it's an honest shock that like anyone heard of it. It's just one of those titles where because it was so obscure and so hard to track down. Um, anyway, I
Yeah.
would sincerely recommend that one if you're looking for interesting movies to add to your list, to acquire, to watch, what have you. Just because um, one, just because it's so unheard of at this point, really, but also because it's, the imagery is just mind blowing because it's, the people who did it and everything.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous. Thanks for the recommendation.
Always happy to, always happy to give one that's not crazy. Um, Now, Marie, I do want to ask this as well, because it's I've kept you here for about an hour. There is a significant time difference, and I don't want to keep you here for more than you've kind of signed up for into the later evening for you. But I am
hmm
wondering that before I let you go, if you don't mind if I hit you up with a lightning round.
I would love to do the lightning round. Yes, please.
Awesome. Now, before we started recording, you did mention that you had a rough idea of what this was. And now I will say again, just as a
Yeah.
reminder, that these are lighthearted, nonsensical, and a little bit random questions. So feel free to answer them as quick as you like, no judgment, however you see fit.
Okay, sounds good.
As well, because I mentioned this before we started recording, that I don't know how new the episodes that you would have checked out. So I'm going to hit
hmm
you with my current favorite nonsense one to ask that I'm, admittedly asking everyone because I love it.
Okay.
So, which video game character do you think would most likely want uppies from a goth dommy mommy?
I was not expecting that question. Um, wow. I'm gonna go for. Hmm. I feel like I've got my puzzle brain head on, so I'm like thinking about characters from puzzle games. I'm gonna go with someone like Phoenix Wright from Ace Attorney, and I won't elaborate further.
Thank you. No pressure to elaborate. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that it caught you off guard because, like I said, my goal is to catch people off guard, and I just love that question because it's so nonsense.
Yep,
Um,
I love it.
which video game character do you feel is most likely to innocently text a picture of their feet at 2 a.m. and ask, "Do these look the same size to you?"
Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see. I mean, now I just want to say Phoenix Wright again because that's the only person who's coming to mind, but I will not say that. I will say, let's go with someone like Professor Layton from the infamous Professor Layton series.
And that makes perfect sense. He's a professor. That has to be like,
Yeah,
he has an educational reason to make sure they're the same size, right?
absolutely. It's purely professional. Yes.
Now, only because based on the last two answers to your question, I want to throw this one to you. Which video game
hmm
character do you feel is most likely to call themselves a thirst trap despite having no business doing so, and why?
Okay, this is a good one. Let's see. Who's a thirst trap and has no business? You know what? I'm going to be controversial and say a non-puzzle game character. I'm going to say you've just described Wario from the Mario series.
Now, I am this one I do am going to say, please elaborate. Why Wario?
Because he thinks he's all that, you know? He's got that purple, he's got that mustache. Okay, also, he reminds me of one of my exes who also would do that. So that's my elaboration.
Thank, thank you very much. That one I was not expecting. Thank you for that curveball. I'm happy that you can throw them right back at me.
You're
Now,
welcome.
Marie, as I said, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do want to let you, work towards getting out of here, getting on with your evening. However, before I did turn on the lights and kick you out, I'm wondering if there's anything else you want to discuss, maybe a cool game, something else you're working on, or something you feel more people should just be more aware of. The floor is all yours. As well, please let everyone know where they can find more information about you, which I'll also include in the episode description.
Yeah, so yeah, is there anything I want people to know about? I mean, this is definitely not my game, but I played a fantastic game literally this morning called Strange Jigsaws, which took me off guard by how much fun it was. And so, if asked what I think more people should know about, Strange Jigsaws. It's a cool little puzzle game about jigsaws, and yet it's not about jigsaws at all. And I loved it. But that is not about me. So yeah, who have I been? I'm Mairi Nolan. I can be found at MairiSpaceship.com in all the places. My portfolio, I write about escape rooms. I do all kinds of things on the internet. I'm chronically online, so if you just search some combination of my name and spaceship, you will definitely find me. Yeah, I think that's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll make sure your site is in there for people to click and follow through and find more information about you. Now, I apologize. I said I was turning on the lights to kick you out. However, you mentioned something I forgot to ask about this.
Oh yeah.
Would you mind speaking to or elaborating on your middle name being Spaceship? Because I read the blurb about it. However, I
hmm
think it's something that absolutely needs to be asked. And I apologize for not doing it sooner and waiting till the very last minute, right when I was about to say goodbye to you.
That's all right. So, yeah, as you correctly identify, my real middle name, my legal middle name is Spaceship. So it's Mairi Spaceship Nolan. And that is because when I was in primary school, so about the age of 6, 7, or 8, all my friends had middle names. And I was like, this is outrageous. I want a middle name as well. And so one day I just walked into school and I said, like, without hesitation, that my middle name was Spaceship. I cannot tell you why. I do not know what was going through my head. And I guess the teachers humored me because they were like, sure, we'll update your school record to Spaceship. And then that carried through to high school, that carried through to university. My diploma had Spaceship on it. When I apply for jobs, it has Spaceship. And so at some point as an adult, I also legally changed my name. So yeah, my real official middle name is Spaceship. And yeah, it's bizarre. It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I'm just honoring the wishes of 6-year-old me.
So thank you so much for speaking to that. And again, I apologize. I had meant to ask about that kind of at the top of the hour. However, you mentioning it made me I wanted to ask about this. People should know should know about this because that's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for explaining that. And I think it's absolutely wonderful that not only did you do it, when you were younger and everyone just humored you, that you went and legally did that. That the court systems or whatever was like, yeah, screw it, that works.
Why not?
I'm
Yeah.
I'm pleased to know that they did not give you any trouble for that and just went, yeah, screw it, let's let some magic exist. Let there be some whimsy, right?
Exactly. No, I love that. Shout out to the UK court system for that one.
But Marie, outside of that, if there wasn't anything else, I will shut up and I will let you get on with your evening.
Thank you. I think it is time for bed for me. For those listening at home, it is nearly 10 p.m. So on a Monday. Oh, yeah.
So thanks again to Marie for making time to have this conversation with me, and thank you for joining us on the Red Tunic podcast, as well as a special thanks to Ronald Jenkins for the use of music from the title track from Road Steep. Be sure to check out the episode description for links to socials, websites, and other means that will allow you to learn more about or support Marie and the podcast. And while you're doing that, share, like, follow, and whatever else you think makes the algorithm work. Thanks. Till next time.